The AP poll's initial rankings have the Tigers 32nd, but I'm going to make the case for Missouri to be a heck of a lot higher than that.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And on today's program, in very short order, we're going to get to the left tackle move that definitely surprised me and has much of the Missouri online commentariat. Well, they're definitely a Twitter right now for sure. Is this a bad sign or a good sign, quite honestly? Let's break it all down. Also, since 2020, not much has gotten cheaper, including prices of tickets to Missouri games, but I do have some good news for you. It's about to get a lot cheaper to watch the Tigers on your television or your smart devices anyway, so at least you got that going for you. And also, I'll tell you this, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime, where you can save some money as well. Download the Gametime app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first ticket purchase. But as I alluded to there in the cold opening, Missouri ranked outside of the AP poll just like they were outside of the coaches poll, but this time quite a bit farther outside, AP 32nd, which at first glance is not, I'll be honest, not the most gigantic insult, in the world here. And it's certainly within the realm of possibility. It's not as though 32nd, my God, well, that's never happened in Missouri history. And that's part of the deal here. I think Missouri's history is going against it. There's a lot of skeptics, especially, well, since moving to the SEC. I think nationally there's still a perception that for whatever reason, Missouri does not belong. But I'll tell you this, I think they belong within the top 25. I think they've earned that respect. After finishing 9th in the AP poll in 2023, 19th last season, one could look at that as trending down. I don't really see it that way at all, because even though Missouri obviously is going to have to replace its quarterback, to me, even with just okay quarterback play this year, I think Missouri is going to be a pain in the butt to play, as I've said a few times here for you everydayers. This team, at the very least, in my opinion, is going to be able to run the football, control the clock, hit the occasional deep shot on the outside, and also I think that defense is going to be excellent. I think it has the potential to be a top 10, top 15 type of group. I think at the very least, they're going to be as good as it was last season, which was a top 25 type of defense. And the Missouri offense had its moments last season for sure, but also had its moments of inconsistency. So to me, I think Missouri has a chance to improve quite a bit on last season. Maybe not as good as 2023, but heck, you could talk me into it too. And in fact, I've talked myself into this Missouri team being a real problem, like you can tell. And I do, when I'm looking at my preseason rankings of just the SEC, by the way, you're talking about Georgia, Texas, and Alabama. To me, that's the order, but whatever order you want to put them in, I think it's pretty clear that's the top 3 right now. Some would throw LSU in there. I'm the type of person who's going to put LSU maybe in a tier by itself in 4th place there. They've got the returning quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, a heck of a portal class, reportedly, evidently. We'll have to see, just like we'll have to see with Missouri's portal class this fall too. But right now, I'm going to put LSU 4th. And I think really 5th is about as high today as I can realistically, without questioning my own objectivity, if not my own sanity there. I truly think Missouri can be the 5th best team in the SEC without again thinking that I need to be institutionalized or something like that. So that's just my feeling. I think that's Missouri's upside. Certainly its downside is even worse than 33rd in the country. A lot of things can go wrong for you, especially when injuries spiral out of control for you. But I think too many people, and maybe including myself, are just assuming that Oklahoma may come back to, if not previous glory, at least, well, top 25 status. And I think a lot of fans nationally, and obviously AP writers and voters, are assuming that as well by ranking the Sooners 18th. By the way, other Missouri opponents ranked in the AP top 25 here: Alabama 8th, South Carolina 13th, which seems maybe a titch high, but boy, I'm a huge fan of their quarterback, Lenora Sellers, though. 18th for Oklahoma and 19th for Texas A&M. I can kind of understand all of those. And actually, you know what? I should just bring up the top 25 here. I've got a graphic for a reason here. Our team over at Locked On put together this handy-dandy graphic, so I might as well use it for all of you on YouTube. But again, the Sooners 18th, hey, I can live with that. But SMU 16th, how about Indiana 20th? That's where I have a little bit of a problem, because the Indiana Hoosiers, God bless them, had a great season last year. Say what you will about their schedule. They made the college football playoff, but were basically wiped off the floor by the two teams that they played last season. You can say the same thing about Missouri in 2024, by the way, as well, with their two best opponents in Texas A&M and Alabama on the road. But to me, I just think, especially when Indiana, for example, has a new quarterback that it's breaking in, well, what is the difference then between Missouri and Indiana? To me, Missouri has proven more by going 21-5 the past couple of seasons, and even a 2022 season that I would argue is a heck of a lot better than its 6-6 record, even though, as always, yes, at the end of the day, you are what your record says you are. But so as far as bias goes, once again, if you're going to give me if you're going to give me Oklahoma, I can live with it. You're going to give me Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin has proved a lot in recent years. But even I would say, to a lesser extent, the Arizona State Sun Devils, but certainly I would say SMU and Indiana. I just don't totally understand the rankings there and why those two particular programs, hey, again, God bless them for making the playoff. But other than that, what have they proven that Missouri hasn't proven in recent seasons, especially in a tougher with a tougher road to hoe? I think that a tougher row to hoe, excuse me, I always mess that one up. But the point is in the SEC, I think sometimes all the talk of, well, Missouri having a relatively easy schedule in the conference blinds to people that it's still a gauntlet in the SEC, and Missouri's still got a much tougher row to hoe than does SMU or Indiana, for that matter. So let's keep all of that in mind and let's all of us as Missouri fans keep that in mind and battle it out with all the people and their bad narratives online that could, in theory, I suppose, cost Missouri a college football playoff berth. But again, my contention is go 10-2. I think Missouri's going to get in there 9 times out of 10. And Eli Drinkwitz, after Saturday's scrimmage, talked about making some adjustments on the offensive line and specifically at the left tackle position for the upcoming week of practice. Well, I'll tell you, I did not see one adjustment coming, and that's kicking Cayden Green out from left guard to left tackle, at least for this week of practice, or, well, one day of practice anyway. We shall see how the rest of the week goes, but this is a pretty noteworthy and surprising move to me, so I want to talk about it with you here in a little bit and whether we as Missouri fans should be worried about this. But first, let's talk about Gametime, and we've all been there. Hassles trying to find last-minute tickets. Well, that's where Gametime comes in, because Gametime makes getting all types of tickets just easier and faster than ever, whether you're talking about concerts, of course, or baseball and going to Mizzou football games, whatever it might be. To me, my favorite way to check out Gametime is the zone deals, especially if you're not especially picky about where you sit, but you have a general idea, hey, I want to sit in this general part of the stadium. Well, if you go with zone deals, you're going to get between, hey, like say 4 or 5 different sections, pick between them. You'll get a seat in one of those 4 sections, and there's a good chance you're going to save a lot of dough in the process. That's the beauty of it. That's the trade-off. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So just about no matter where you look this preseason, one guy who consistently pops up on preseason, all SEC, and even some All-American type teams is Missouri's starting left guard, or presumed starting left guard, Cayden Green, who actually kicked out to left tackle in Missouri's most recent practice. And I have to say, Missouri talking about making adjustments at the position, I was expecting Johnny Williams, the transfer from West Virginia, to slide into that left tackle spot. It seemed like Javen Richardson and Williams are the worthy, at least, primary competitors for that left tackle position. But putting Green out there, moving him from where he's become accustomed to, at least in his one season plus an off season here, whatever you want to call it at Missouri, just obviously one season at Oklahoma, one season as a player for Missouri. That's a pretty noteworthy adjustment to me. Now, it could just be a one-day thing, maybe even a one-week thing. But I have to say, going back, let's just actually read Drinkwitz's quote here again. Now, seeing what Missouri did, I'm looking at it with a little bit different context. He says, quote, "We're going to make some adjustments next week and see if we can't find, the goal is to get the best 5. I thought that was interesting. So it wasn't just necessarily about left tackle, where Drinkwitz was quick to say that, no, the position has not been settled yet. He continues here. So we've got 2 more weeks to get there. So next week we'll make a change, and we want to see if we got a different starting 5 next week to see what it looks like. So again, the most important part here, he actually said, hey, we're looking to get the best 5, not necessarily just looking at tackle. And it wasn't just Cayden Green moving around. Dominic Gadis, the Michigan transfer, had been playing mostly right guard for all of this offseason, had been playing some center as well, with Connor Tollison still recovering, and Missouri had been trying a few different players as the backup center there. So I thought that was interesting as well. And another player, Curtis Piegler, getting some time with the first team at the right guard position there, vacated by Gadis. So when a lot of people would have assumed, I think Tristan Wilson or others would have maybe taken that spot, it was Piegler getting a chance here. So especially with Cayden Green, this is making some Missouri fans, I think, a little bit understandably nervous, because this could mean a few different things. It could mean, are we really struggling at the left tackle position right now? That could definitely be a possibility. Hey, here's some other for sure possibilities. It could genuinely be just Missouri shuffling things around a little bit, giving some guys a different look, because sometimes, hey, injuries happen, and those types of things are necessary during the middle of the season. Figure it out as you go. But I will say this, this is less than ideal, I would say, that at this point. And also, let's do a third option. Maybe Cayden Green is just really good at being a tackle as well as a guard. Because I'll just say this, as a Kansas City Chiefs fan, one of the reasons, and as many of you are, I have no doubt about that, I think as Chiefs fans, well, we just saw the Chiefs in the playoffs, right before the playoffs started, to my memory, kick out their really good left guard a multi-time all-pro type of player for the Patriots and a guy who was really good for the Chiefs as well at guard. Well, they kicked him out to left tackle. And while the Chiefs, obviously that worked out well enough for them to get to the Super Bowl, in the Super Bowl, that particular weakness was badly exposed by the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody needs any reminder there. But the point here is that I think it's understandable why, if you're a Chiefs and a Missouri fan or just a fan of somebody who follows the NFL closely, why you'd be going, raising your eyebrows a little bit at that move. I will say this, though. It makes a lot more sense, at least from a desperation meter, I guess, perspective, that Missouri's trying this out right now versus in week 10 of the season or week 12 of whatever the NFL equivalent would be to when the Chiefs made that move really late in the season. So I'll be honest with you. I don't know what to make of this move completely, but it does make me a bit nervous. I have to admit, it'd be much more... Well, I'd like to hear much more. I'd be much more assured. Let's put it that way. If Drinkwitz was saying, "Hey, don't worry about it. The left tackle is a cornerstone, and I haven't thought about X, Y, or Z player, whoever it might be, all season." But it's just interesting to me that at this point in the offseason, they're shuffling around the offensive line to this extent. Maybe it's nothing. But I have to say, if you're one of those people that's a little bit nervous, I'm at least a little bit nervous with you. And speaking of practice reports, Gerard Hamilton over at Power Mizzou was watching the Tigers do some kickoff return drills, which is not something he's seen this camp so far. And he reported that he saw Jamal Roberts, Missouri's running back, and, well, kind of third down running back, I would say at this point. And a couple of true freshmen as well. Another running back, Brendan Haygood, also Sean Terry, somebody I'm interested at in the punt return game as well. Also Demarion Folks, I believe another true freshman receiver, in fact. So a bunch of young guys out there on the kickoff unit, plus Jamal Roberts. And interestingly, last year it was mostly Demetrius Speedy Johnson and Josh Manning who were handling the kickoff return duties. But as I've said many times, the kickoff return in college football has become such a non-play at this point. I would rather have my two starting outside receivers. I'd rather be talking to them on the sidelines if I'm Eli Drinkwitz or Kirby Moore or the receiver coach Jacob Peeler, whoever it might be. To me, it's those 30 to 60 seconds, whatever it might be, sometimes longer when you're standing out there for a few minutes during a TV timeout. I'd rather have those guys chopping it up with the coaches, trying to figure stuff out, have a meeting of the minds, figure some stuff out, what plays, what coverages is the defense, just all of that kind of stuff. To me, I want my starters having their heads in the game as much as possible and not worrying about a play that 9 times out of 10 these days is just a matter of a fair catch or simply waving your arms and watching the ball fly over your head. By all means, I can trust true freshmen to handle that job these days. I really can. And in the last few years, there's obviously just been tons of changes in the sports media landscape. Just obviously, we weren't streaming games on Peacock a few years ago. In fact, a few years ago, you'd be thinking, what the heck is a Peacock? This type of deal. So believe it or not, I know ESPN is not the most popular entity these days, but believe it or not, ESPN just did Missouri fans, really SEC fans, but specifically for this podcast, we're going to say the ESPN and Disney just did Missouri fans, well, a big-time solid. They're about to save you a lot of money here in the coming season. So let's talk about that right after these quick words. So first of all, if you're the type of person who has not cut the cord, if you still have a traditional cable package, Traditional satellite package, well, as far as I can tell, you're going to be able to watch ESPN and the SEC network, which importantly, that family of networks is really what we're talking about here. That's how you watch the Tigers football and basketball, especially. So what does all of this mean? What does it mean when ESPN is now, has long been rumored, is going to spin off? Well, it's not only going to just be ESPN Plus. You're now going to be able to subscribe to an all-encompassing ESPN streaming service that includes the SEC network, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, all the ESPN Plus stuff you could possibly get as well. Well, all that's going to be about $30 a month, it sounds like. And if that sounds like a lot of money, I completely understand that when you consider that, hey, I can get Netflix, for example, well, for $8 a month on its base package with ads, that type of deal. But here's the deal. That's not the right comparison, because what you really have to compare it to, because I currently pay $115 a month, even though I've cut the cord, I have DirecTV Stream. So I still have the cable package. It's just in a streaming form. Many of you, I'm sure, have YouTube TV, of course, Hulu Plus, Live TV. There's a few other different options, but those are the main ones. The point is I pay for the DirecTV version simply because that's the only way you can get the Kansas City Royals and the St. Louis Cardinals here locally, unless you do have a direct, a cable package, for instance, Xfinity, Mediacom, whatever it might be. But instead of paying that $115 to, again, have all the ESPNs, have all the FanDuel sports networks that I need to watch baseball, well, with this ESPN Super package coming for $30, I could also add the FanDuel Sports Network Plus package, so then you wouldn't have, that's the other way to get that without having a traditional cable package. Well, you add that up, that's only $50 a month. That's still $65 less than what I'm paying for DirecTV. Now, of course, DirecTV gives you a lot of other content as well. But the thing is, if we're just talking about watching, well, the Tigers here, my goodness, you're saving a tremendous amount of money. And here's the thing, all those other ESPNs, guess what? I'm getting a heck of a lot of other college football too, including the Big 12, a lot of Big 10 action, all kinds of stuff. Yes, I'll still need to be able to access Fox, for example, via an overhead HD aerial. Okay, big deal. I can buy one of those for $50 at Walmart. That is not the end of the world. All I'm really missing out here on is FS1, FS2, that type of deal, because I can subscribe to Peacock for $8 a month, the ad-free package, throw that on there, and I can get the Big Ten networks content there and a whole bunch of other stuff, including, the NBC, the actual NBC, that type of deal. And by the way, some other huge news, Paramount Plus bought essentially the rights to UFC's pay-per-views, ending their pay-per-view model. Now they're going premium live events like WWE did. So in other words, when it's UFC 385 or whatever number they're on, well, that used to be $60. Now it's going to be just included with your Paramount Plus package. Again, if you're a UFC fan, what a massive savings that is. So in a world where, man, everything is getting more expensive seemingly over the last few years or so, including, by the way, the cost of live event tickets. No doubt Missouri season ticket holders are feeling that this season. Well, by God, at least we're saving some money on the television side. So when we watch the Tigers on the road, and maybe those of you have chosen to not get season tickets, go to fewer games, whatever it might be, well, this is a way you can save some money and maybe get some of those tickets back into your budget. So something I don't say very often these days, but thank you, ESPN, for making my sports a little bit cheaper. By the way, in that ESPN package, I mentioned, well, those WWE premium live events, that's part of what ESPN is going to be offering as well. They bought this off of Peacock, and you're going to get the NFL Red Zone channel coming on that ESPN deal as well. So really a heck of a value here if you're a sports fan. Tough to complain about that. But hey, hopefully I've given you a decent value for your free money today here on Locked On Mizzou. I appreciate you joining me here as always. And speaking of free, hey, it's free to tell a friend and a fellow true son or daughter about the show. Tell them to hit me up on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So until next time, I am John Miller. Thanks for listening to Locked On Mizzou.